So on your Instagram, there's a post where you open with a line. I don't think you open with it, but it's one of the first slides, and I really, really liked it. You don't have a rock bottom story. I feel as if that's a very reoccurring theme. Any online coach, not that there's anything wrong with it, but you go on the profile, first thing you see, same. It's almost like the same story told by a different person.
Different font, like.
Mm-hmm. I feel as if you presenting that just sums you up as a person. Very real, shall we say? Do you think, or how important do you think it is to be who you say you are instead of trying to fabricate something to get the likes?
That's the thing. Because them posts always get a great response from whether it is people they know or people they don't know. And fair enough, people do have tough backstories, the things that happen to them. But with my approach, it's just like, if you're going to do it, you might as well do it in a way that's actually you, and be true to yourself, because you'll be able to do it for long enough if it's actually you, and you'll not burn out trying to be someone you're not, or playing into like the views and the likes and the shares. And I just feel as if, like, I don't know, there's a lot of my way or the highway. Like, I don't even know how to explain what I'm trying to say, but it's more or less just like, this is me, this is my story, but they blow it up to be something that's not. Whereas when it's you, it's just you. You can sort of, I don't know, just stay true to it. Like,
Yeah, I think it's almost like there's a qualifying process for what you needed to have gone through to become an online coach.
that, yeah, actually on that, when I first started, I never really followed like anyone, because I wasn't into the fitness industry that much. I didn't follow too many people. I might have followed like Sean Casey and Tony McAlevey because they were like viral and you always seen their videos. But
Hard to miss.
when I first started, I always seen like the car sales of people's stories, and the odd one would pop up, and I always thought to myself, like, I don't have one of them.
Yeah.
Like, I had a good upbringing. I had a good childhood. Like, I had good friends. I just fell into this sort of path of, I just enjoyed training. I found out that I enjoyed helping people train, and that was really it. Like, so I didn't have anything to sort of launch pad off. If that makes sense.
Yeah. And when did you? I'm curious because you mentioned you're maybe as engulfed in the space and in the industry as maybe other people were. Like myself, I always would have consumed fitness content. Always knew who this influencer was, who this lifter was. But I'm curious as to how you went from being outside the bubble to slowly finding your way inside the bubble, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Because when I would have consumed social media, it would have just been like FIFA YouTubers and the Sidemen and all them ones. That was sort of the ones I grew up watching. Like, and then I think the first one that sort of got me into the whole like fitness videos and all was, Joe Fazer,
Yes,
like,
yes,
pretty tall
yes,
guy.
yes.
Yeah, it was his videos. I can't remember what they were. It was about pesto pasta and all that, and then that sort of started like, went from him. I've still actually, his videos now are really good. By the way, it's not even fitness related. He goes to like country with the tallest people, or he went to like the coldest place in the world. Off track there, but it's very good videos there. But
Mm-hmm.
it went from him to Dave Trains. I seen you were commenting on his the other day. Like,
Oh,
you seen
I wish I had it. I wish I had it on me. I have
the
that pre-workout
overdrive.
he sent me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, would have watched a good bit of him just when they were in the apartment. Him and
Lucy,
can't remember the name.
his
But
girlfriend.
yeah, it was sort of, yeah, his girlfriend. Yeah.
Lucy, yeah.
Um, yeah, it just sort of rippled from like it started with Joe Fraser, and then I just started like watching Jeff Nippert a lot and all that, and then yeah, it just sort of like freaked its way in, and then suddenly it was at the minute all I consume is fitness stuff. Like
And how much of it would you say is you consuming it because you enjoy it? I suppose the question I'm trying to ask is, are you do you consume it because it's entertainment for you, or more from the standpoint of there's something to learn here? I guess the two can overlap and do overlap, but what way would you say you swing towards?
firstly is because I am awful for a doom scroll. Like see before bed, or even when I'm sitting doing work, like I'll find myself going on my phone and I'm like, what am I actually looking for here? There's nothing for me. But obviously if I'm posting fitness content, it's gonna throw a lot more back at me. And you said, is it entertainment or learning? Bit of both, yes. But I feel as if there's always something to learn, but at the same time, I'm not really absorbing it. Like I'd be watching it and thinking that's actually smart. The old thing will stick with me, but most of the time it's gone. If you were to ask me what video I seen 10 minutes ago, it wouldn't be there. Like so, it's sort of that trap of just falling into scrolling, thinking that I'm learning something here. I'm going to apply this. If you were to wake up the next day, you wouldn't be able to remember it, and you probably do nothing with it.
Yeah,
And that's what I end up doing most of the time.
100%. Something I've been saying a lot to the guys in the mentorship. I always ask the question, do you remember the fifth reel you watched today? And then they think about it and they say no. And I use that as a frame that shows them that everyone's so worried about their first video being bad and everyone laughing at them or whatever it may be. But if your first video will be terrible, of course. Rep one's always the worst in this context. If the video's terrible, nobody's gonna see it. I think higher up
Forget
wellness
about it
actually
as
said that.
well.
Yeah, but it'll be your entry point, and that's the hardest rep to do. The analogy I always use here. Have you ever used a like a machine shoulder press, and getting the weight up for the first rep is takes about 4 seconds, but once you get going, you're fine.
Bam. Yeah.
And maybe sometimes someone gives you a wee push up in the elbows, so some people get a little boost because they know someone with a big following, or somebody puts them on. And it's funny. I'd like to go back there because you mentioned Sean Casey. I actually sent out an email a couple of hours ago saying that I see you as almost like the next Sean Casey. Just a very I don't mean that I don't want that to offend you because you're you, but
Yeah.
the realness and not trying to pretend to be someone you're not, just being a normal guy that is helping people get in shape.
I
Like
think that's why he is so successful, though, is because
yes,
even when you watch it, you just feel as if you know him, and he's not doing anything too extravagant. Like it's just him out walking his dogs or
yeah.
out on holiday or stuff. It's just like he's just a real person. Like whereas some people, it's a wee bit fabricated. Like
I think he's an interesting one because that's that is who he is, but also he is gonna milk the life out of it because that's what people are coming on to watch, which is you should absolutely do that, right? If it's
whatever
working, it's
works,
working.
triple down. Like
Exactly. But there will maybe already is at that stage where he has that much money that it's not possible to maintain that image. From what I know, he was a millionaire at 22.
what am I doing
When
with my life? But
it's
scary.
I, and again, people who want to be coaches or people who want to maybe veer off the academic 9 to 5 path, will look at the Sean Casey's of the world and think, there's no way, that could never be me. But the only difference between a Sean Casey and you is about 1,000 reps,
Yeah,
right?
like same with anyone. Anyone can be anyone. You can achieve what anyone's achieved. It's just getting there is probably the hardest part.
Yeah, and you can't get there if you don't start walking.
Nope.
And that's the
Getting
thing. You
off
need,
the ground.
yeah, you need to start walking, right? Step by step. A lot of people do their Instagram announcement post about being a coach, and everyone's liking it, everyone's resharing. They're like, oh yeah, this is gonna be great. A week later, £0 has come through for coaching.
You
All you've
literally
had,
just described my life 1 year ago today. Like,
me too.
madness. Like, you've a big lift, big high of just go on, well done, all this crack, and then I didn't post for like 2 weeks.
It's funny, but when I first started, your like definition of what work is pretty skewed. I remember I would post 3 reels a week and think, yeah, it's a good graft on there. See, yes, yesterday it was funny. Yesterday I'd posted 5 times before noon.
Seriously.
Yeah.
To be fair, anytime the first time I open my phone, it's always you in your car talking about something. I swear to God. Like, I try my best not to go on my phone for at least an hour, and it's always you. First face I meet every morning. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but you're always there.
Yeah, that's something I do as well. No screen light before sunlight. See little systems or little rules like that for yourself. Would you have many of them, and would it be something you generally encourage your clients to do?
I have a couple that are like every day, but I don't push them or overly suggest on them purely because like it's probably half of it's in my head, and even if it is placebo, it's still placebo when it works. But the biggest one's probably the caffeine after. Like, I try my best not have it after 12 p.m. like midday,
Yeah.
and anytime I do bring it up to clients, like someone will say like my sleep's been a bit ropey or I'm struggling to get sleep, I'll ask them like, do you have caffeine late in the evening? And they're like, yeah, I'll have one maybe an hour after lunchtime in the office. I'll have a coffee, or they have tea at like 10 and they don't know that there's caffeine in tea, and I'll say it to them and they'll be like, no, but I sleep fine, like I get to sleep okay, but it's the quality of that sleep. But it's one of them things of they're sleeping all right, they're getting to sleep, and it's not overly affecting them, so it's not going to have a massive change. So if it works for me, I happily do it, but for them, I'm not going to force it on them overly. Like, and then the second one was definitely the phone one, just in the morning. Like, there's no point in waking up and the first thing you're doing is seeing what you're doing. If I wake up and roll over and pick up my phone and see that you've posted 3 videos and 4 stories and you're up and doing attacking the day, like that's not gonna set me up for anything. Like,
Yeah, the video I posted. Sorry, I don't know why I used the the singular form of video there. the 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 50 cal machine gun of reels I've dispatched your way are still gonna be there at 3 p.m. I think this constant need. Social media is an addiction, and we all have. We've all normalized. When we do things now that don't require your phone, it is the best feeling in the world. I don't know about you, but anything I've done, like dips, going for a run with your mates, all these, shall we say, I'm going to just use the word outdoor, extracurricular
touching
activities.
grass.
Touching grass, yes, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
The reason we get such a natural high from them now is because it's such a natural thing to do, but we are constantly behind a screen, so we just don't do it.
And
It's kind of messed up.
it's a screen that's designed to keep you there, and it's
Yeah.
just firing and firing dopamine at you, and then eventually walking outside and feeling fresh air is like the best thing since sliced bread. Zinger.
uh, it's so easy to, one of those, shall we say, hangouts with the boys, like make you rethink life and get this mad feeling of inspiration. When you think about it, all you've done is exactly what our parents were probably doing every day, or not even our parents, what we were doing when we were kids,
Yeah,
right?
run about.
Picking up sticks, pretending we're shooting at each other, and not to sound like the Liver King, but there's something in doing like activities that we could describe as primal now. There's there's something in that. I remember I was in a month ago there. I was in Italy and was doing the boat over Lake Como, or on Lake Como, sorry. Ryan and I were just like, "Yo, this is class," taking it all in. But we took so many photos, and we were just chilling, going a bit faster than we should have at one stage. Just kept thinking, I hate that I've had to record all this. I hate that I've posted a story about this. And not to get too deep in it, but I remember last year when I went to Zach Bryan, I videoed. I was like, no, I need to get this, I need to get this, I need to get this. I have watched none of them videos, and I've used maybe a couple of them or a few of them for social media. So when I went to Zach Bryan a few weeks back, I took 5 pictures and videos in total, right? Maybe. And I was just thinking to myself, things like, yes, you have to spend money to do it, but it's so simple to do something that makes you really happy. And I think that's why a lot of people live on social media and they're watching other people live the life that they want. When the person living that life is maybe doing something very simple, like going for a walk with their dog on or up a mountain that's 5 minutes from their house, but they've taken that nice shot and put it on social media. So everyone's like, oh, I want to do that. My brother in Christ, just go and do it then.
Go outside.
Touch grass, as he said.
Touch grass. No, that photo, and that's probably the best point of the day. Like, it was. Have you ever watched The Night Agent? The actor Gabriel Basso was in it.
Is it on Netflix?
Yeah.
I think I watched
Second season came out there recently. But he
Right.
was on Jimmy Fallon, and he was saying that he deleted TikTok, he deleted Instagram, everything, because he was sitting on the couch one night and there was someone on top of Everest and put a photo up and he'd seen it, and he said it like really, really angered him, because how is he able to just be on his sofa, open his phone and see something that someone climbed over, like dead bodies, like months and months and months of prep up the mountain, take a photo, and then he's able to just see it. And that's sort of back to what you said about you're in that moment, like that person who took the photo, obviously Zach Bryan going up Everest are two different things, but you might not look back on the photo, but you'll always just like sort of remember being there, or who you're with, or what you were listening to.
Yeah. That's something I didn't consider. You would hear these massive feats of human curiosity. Or the fact that people can climb up Mount Everest, right? Where you literally need assistance with breathing and training. And like psychologically, it must be tough as well as physically, of course. But yeah, like you said, to do something like that, you need to push the human body hard, and not just when you're climbing the mountain in the run up to it to get yourself in the condition to climb it. That's a massive achievement, and that is a really big deal. But say someone did it in their boxers with no assistance, no food, running on a can of Monster, and put it up on social media, we'd just be like, oh yeah, look, that's pretty cool, oh, no way. And then you scroll past it, and you're
Forget about
watching
it.
me talk about the
Star Wars and hips.
Star Wars and hips. Yeah, yeah. But that's the way it works. A lot of people, like, because of social media, I think social media has wired us in a way where we glorify like these huge, massive achievements as the standard. We don't really appreciate all like the tiny blocks that help build the achievement. You know, is that something you'd say you apply in your coaching philosophy? So, say someone's working towards a photo shoot and they've had their friends moving away to Canada, for example, and there's a big dinner. Like, would you encourage people to really go out and enjoy themselves, or would you take the approach of, right, here's your goals, we need to tactically approach this in terms of calorie banking, or even setting themselves up on the day, like pushing meals back or whatever it may be to narrow down the window? What approach would you take in that kind of context?
In context of it being like a big event where they knew it was coming, like you said, a friend leaving or like a milestone birthday or whatever it is, for example, they sort of know that I'm going to say, like, it's your call. It's up to you. I'm not going to hold anything against you if you send it, if you rip it. If you don't, I won't mind either. But I've sort of built up a good, what's the word? Like a radar of being able to detect whether someone's either in like a good place of being able to go and enjoy themselves, or being able to hold back and be like, no, I don't need to today. There was one stage where a fella had something coming up, and it was, I think it might have been one of his mates' 21st, and he said he wasn't going to drink or anything, but he knew about it. He spoke about it weeks before, and he said, like, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that. And I was like, look, that's not going to come around again. You've went to school with this lad for 7 years. You're in uni with him. You live with him. Like, it's only one day. Like you said, you glorify the, like, I have a lot of before and afters on my Instagram, and they're great. Like, you can see the hard work they've put in, but it comes back to seeing a photo on social media. You see that before and after, and then you're like, oh, it's pretty cool. That's it. You don't see the previous 4 months that's went into work before that. That one day of him going out and just saying, like, you know what, I'm going to enjoy myself, isn't going to affect the previous 4 months that he's put in. Albeit it might knock him off his routine or his flow a wee bit. But I always just try my best to just like look back and think, in the grand scheme of things, is this going to have a drastic effect in my life? Going over my calories for one day? Probably not.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the way
Especially,
that. Go ahead. No, you're right.
that's right. I think especially when it's goal or event orientated, it can be very difficult, because with someone just trying to lose a bit of weight, 100%, and we don't even need to. I actually would discourage making up for it after. We don't do that punishment mentality. We just
No.
you just get back on to whatever you're meant to be doing. Right, or
I actually
basics.
had something on my story that a fella commented on a loom, and he was like, the average for the week is a big one for him because he would have previously went out Saturday night and then sort of made up for it then on the Sunday by not eating, like you just said there now.
Yeah.
But you said about event or a goal. On what I said, my main, well, actually not my main, all of my clients are all just like general population,
Mm.
boys my age. They might play a bit of football, but none of it is like competition or like goal based, like you said. Like you
Mm.
do, or maybe I'm not sure if you do anymore, but you used to do a bit of powerlifting, didn't you? And
I still have a few. I outsourced my coaching now. If that makes sense. So I've got Reese on board doing it for me, Reese Evans, but I still coach. In terms of competitive powerlifters, actively competitive, that be being coached by me, there's probably still a handful.
it's not really something I've ever dabbled in. Like even doing it myself, I do a bit of bench, but I never actually went after numbers. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think the point I was getting at wasn't as much from a performance standpoint. Powerlifting, as long as you're well fueled, if you've had to cut weight, obviously the post weigh in protocol, rehydrating, that's all important. But to be honest, as long as you're well fueled for powerlifting and hydrated, you're fine. I more so meant, say you're going on stage or you're getting a photo shoot done. There is, when you're that lean, you having that extra bit of carbs the night before does make a visual difference, right? Especially what we see quite commonly with people when people start to struggle in prep. If they have, that tiny bit extra, say their evening cravings, it can sometimes open the door for a lot more than just, that little slice of chocolate. And I personally think well placed refeed/diet breaks can be as useful for the mind as they are for the body. Right? With human nature, when you take something away from someone, sometimes they'll want it just because they can't have it. So it is difficult. This is an interesting one. Do you think you've attracted the clientele you have? If we're talking, just you're saying you're largely coaching Gen Pop. Do you think that's because it's going to sound really weird? In a certain way, you are Gen Pop?
Yeah, that's not ridiculous to say that.
Elite reference, elite reference, elite reference.
Your references are out of control, man. Everyone knows that.
Thank you.
Nah, definitely, because I feel as if one thing I was told. Did you go through ECA Belfast with your PT, sir?
No.
No. When I went through there, I think it was either MJ or Marty said you will attract whoever you sort of like, your vibe is your tribe sort of thing. So if they were saying that like there's no right or wrong age or demographic to be in the fitness industry, because if you're a 40-year-old woman, you're going to attract 40-year-old women or around that age. Same goes for me. I'm fresh out of uni or in the age of in uni. I was making videos in the Holy Lands of doing just normal things, and my clients sort of resemble that as well. Obviously, there's a few exceptions, but the large base of it is they don't live the same life as me, but I do a lot of the things that they do, whether it's just a bit of amateur sport at the weekend or going out at the weekend or not, maybe not doing photo shoots. I haven't done any of them. I haven't put a client through one. Bodybuilding shows, haven't trained that either. Haven't trained powerlifting. Like there's a lot in my armory that I don't have. That I've had to turn people away for certain reasons because I couldn't help them. Like I wasn't confident in taking their money to say, right, I can help you with this niche specific issue because I didn't have the skill set for it, and that was really it. So I sort of attracted from the start. I coach people for free, obviously, just to get a bit of social proof, and then it sort of just rippled effect from there. It's a mix of uni students, but also people that play a bit of Gaelic on the side, and then just the odd one that creeps in, like that always does.
So did you play Gaelic / do you play Gaelic?
Yeah, I still do at the minute, but I never played it at like a massive level. It was always. Are you familiar with the handball?
I was just gonna ask you to explain Gaelic to me because I don't
um,
understand.
the cliche way to put it is a mix of. I'm gonna call it soccer, but we know it's football. But for the context of this, soccer, rugby. Have you watched much of it?
I play rugby.
So we play rugby. Okay, perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So you're allowed to run with the ball. Do you have to take a touch in rugby, or no? You just run straight. I'm not familiar with
Yeah.
rugby too much either, but soccer, ball in the net, ball on the ground, rugby in the hand, very, very physical, a lot of contact. It's sort of on each end of that because you need to be technical as well as fit and strong. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, there's goals, there's points. The rules have actually changed in the last 2 years, so I'm not even gonna bother getting into that. That's a loophole.
I'm curious because what I've noticed with a lot of Gaelic players, I spoke to a lot of them. PT and Boucher, there's a lot of students obviously in that gym. A lot of them would have played or play Gaelic. I've noticed a lot of them play more than just Gaelic, and I think we've even seen that with Connor Bradley, if I'm not wrong, played Gaelic as well. At the same time, he was playing football. The question I'm going to put to you comes as a result of me hearing. Again, I don't know if this is true. Hear that for how popular it is in terms of relative to the population of the country, right? Because the stadiums are packed out. You see Gaelic tops everywhere. It amazes me that there's no money to be made in it. Does that trickle down in any way to the youth or I'm not gonna say amateur level because it's all amateur, but does that trickle down to like say the level you're playing at where people don't really see the point of going all in on it, so they kind of have to have a bit on the side, or maybe Gaelic is their bit on the side?
I know what you mean. At the level I play at, I just play club, so it's just like you were born into it and then you enjoyed it. It's with people you know, people you went to school with or whatever. But in terms of you saying like people sort of holding off or not really driving on, it's probably either they are swayed by football or usually the ones that do go on to play like county in the filled stadiums and maybe go off to play in America or whatever. They were always like
America.
gifted from a very young age. Like, oh wait, did I just say America there? And that's turned your yeah. It's
What?
not like it's not a permanent thing. It's like whenever the season ends or your team gets put out of championship, some players might go overseas and play for a club that might have like. There's a lot of GA in America as well. That's not. Yeah, I actually don't
Uh,
think we're getting anywhere with
what?
this, to be honest. Yeah, that's a big thing over there too.
Is
But
this
that's
recent
down
or
to just a lot of Irish moving over there and then
yeah?
starting a club, and then there's just like a heritage there of people going over for the summer, or a lot of Irish like just live there and work there, like,
Yeah.
and then they're like used to playing it at home, so they're like, right, just play it over here too. But yeah, what I was saying was like the ones that go on to play at a high level or higher level are usually you could tell, like you could point it out whenever they're 13, 14, 15. There's the odd exception of like late developers when they're in their 20s or late teens, but usually they're on like the development squads of like underage county teams, and then they build their way through. But then obviously there's a chance of people breaking through late on in their career. Like, but yeah, that's actually I actually don't know how to answer that question overall of the fact that there's no money in it. Does it hold people back? Because I've never even thought of that because I'm not even in the realm of being good at it. Like, so
Something I've noticed about, well, just from my observations at Pure Gym, watching them train in terms of their strength and conditioning. Now, I don't know a whole lot about strength conditioning at all, not my field, but understanding how the human body works and what will elicit an adaptation, their training looks really good, and it looks logical, and it looks well laid out. And having spoke to a few of them, they say, "Oh, it's done through their club. They have a decent S&C coach." I'm fascinated by the desire to put in that much work, especially if they're in their 30s, for example. Put in that much work, have that good of a setup for a sport where the the incentive with the football pyramid is that there's always another level. So if you start at non-league, work your way up to lower leagues, and then Prem, and then you can go to Europe, and then even if you get the tippy top of football, you can add to your records or maintain your records. That doesn't exist in Gaelic.
no,
So, in a very Irish fashion, is it just pure, well, passion?
yeah, literally, like whenever you first start playing, it's usually like under 6 or under 8 if you're born into a village or a town that plays it. But you said about like getting S&C coaches in, like what's the not purpose, but if there's no extra level to go to, then why if you're older? It's purely down to the fact that like there's a big focus on it nowadays. Like obviously S&C's come on like massively in the last however many years, but for like club level, it's just the fact that they know that if they buy into it, like I know myself, it's made me somewhat better because I've got stronger, I've got faster, and if it's able to let you play better at the end of the day, it's a hobby, like, but it's for your town or your club or your village, and it's the thing to do. Like, if you're born into the town, that's what you do. You either play Gaelic, you play hurling, and if you don't, you end up playing something else that's close to it, like football. But yeah, it's just passion. That's all it is, really. Like it's the thing to do. Gaelic's just whatever you play if you're beside a club. That's really it. Like
I love that because the only incentive there is representation of where you're from.
yeah,
There's a magic in that. If that's what's filling the stadium, shameless plug. What are we representing?
Burn. Burren, not like Burn. I say it very fast.
Can we illustrate where that is on a map?
I actually get this
Considering
question a lot.
there are
Yeah.
people who will be listening and can't see it visually.
When people ask me, I always say, "Do you know where Newry is?" And they're like, "Yeah." And then I'm like, "Right. Do you know where Point is?" And they either say yes or no. And if they say yes, I say I'm the road into Worm Point. And if they say no, then I just say I'm 10 minutes outside Newry because it's like
So
Newry's
you're
here,
the town inside the town inside the town.
more of a village.
Right. So we've
Yeah,
gone even
like
smaller
Newry's
scale.
there, Point's here. I'm like in there, like sort of tucked in there.
In relation, how far are we from Belfast? I think that's the best way to put it.
40 minutes, 45 minutes. That's actually the stupidest thing I was about to say. Depends how fast you drive. 40 minutes or so, 45, yeah.
Fair enough. Going back to, I suppose, our first topic of conversation, where I was referencing your "Who I Am" post, I suppose. I remember you saying in that you were just average growing up and picked up that tone from. I don't know if it's just you being humble or if it's true, You know, you're maybe not the best athlete, just a normal guy. But it was something that resonated with me, and with probably a lot of lifters. They're not really great at anything, and they then discover that lifting is 110% the case of how much you put into it. Was that the golden thread you found with lifting? And chat me through what that process looked like, going from, like we said, gem pop to someone who could say that the gym is a large part of their life.
Not could say, I'd say at this point it revolves around it. Like,
Yeah.
but not. What did you say there again? What was that first part of the question?
So what did the process look like for you, going from being not a quote unquote gym person to very much a gym person?
It was actually, so in just before lockdown, actually, we got a bit of like scrap gym equipment. Now that I say scrap, it's actually still there and it's very good. We've repainted it up and whatever.
Yeah.
But I just went, like, my dad showed me how to use it, because like I wouldn't have had a clue at that stage. I was 16 or 17, just probably 64, 65 kilo soaking wet, like couldn't even do a pull up or whatever. But yeah, like he took me and showed me how to use it or whatever, and then I sort of just played about it for a while. I think it was a Jason Blaha 5x5 is what I done, and it was literally just 5 sets of bench, 5 sets of squats, 5 sets shoulder press, 5 sets of rows, and then 5 sets of bicep curls, and then you're out the gap. I don't know how I done that, by the way, but yeah, I got through that, and then I sort of just found out that, like, you see the gains of getting stronger, and then also you see the visual effects of it as well. But it literally always just comes back to that, like, whatever you put in is what you get out. Like, it's all in your hands. Like, no matter, like, for me, in my case, playing football, like, you could go to every training session and be the most dedicated player, but if, like, sometimes the natural talent isn't there, like, you can't make me better. Well, you probably could, but I didn't want to put the time in to be any better than I was. Whereas then with the gym, it was move weight from here to there. That's it. When you're playing
Yeah.
football or some other sports, it's like you start here and you have to, like, do this, that, this, the other to get across to here. Whereas the gym was just so much more simpler than that. It was just like lift weight, try eat protein, sorted. And yeah, it sort of just like stuck with me. And I actually think there hasn't been a period in my life where I've struggled to actually go in and get a workout done. Now that I say that, there was probably 2 or 3 years where I pissed off the wall because I wasn't eating the right foods, I wasn't eating enough food, like just all that crack. I could go on about that all day. But training was never the problem. Like, as soon as I found out how the gym worked and I realised that I enjoyed it, it was just like, it's never been a problem. Like,
And how then are we where we are today? How did you get into coaching?
so I did sports science in uni. I had no intention of being a PT. I probably would have watched PTs online and been like, look at that clown. And here we are today. So, but
Always
that
the
was
way.
me. That was me when I was about 17 or 18, still a twig. So realistically, what did I know? But went to uni, got through first year. It was great crack. I went to uni. I went, but the attention probably wasn't there. Drank quite a lot. Usual student life. And then second year, I didn't train first year, by the way. I more or less packed it up. That was the one year where it didn't happen. Came back from the last holiday from seventh year in school, went to uni. Didn't really happen for me. Went to second year in uni and was training regularly, probably 4 times a week at least. And I was still drinking quite a bit though, so and I was also living in the Holy Lands. Have you much experience in there?
My sister lived very briefly on, or maybe for a year or two. Is it Rugby Road? Rugby Avenue?
Rugby Avenue.
I
Rugby Road is a
something
road as well, to be
Rugby
fair. Yeah, yeah.
Rugby something. And I think one night when I was like maybe 8, uh, 19, 20 maybe. I've definitely ended up at the Holy Lands
Yeah,
at least once, but I know the crack. Like,
you know what you're dealing with. But
yeah,
to be fair, the lads I lived with, like, it wasn't the maddest house, but you didn't have much to work with in terms of like cooking or even money to buy your own food. Like,
yeah,
we were eating whatever you sort of like could make. It wasn't like the pits, but it wasn't ideal. And trained away in the PC in it's like Queen's Gym, and got on all right. This is probably where like the start of it really, like, I really locked into it, but I was still obviously drinking quite a bit, so you know your crack a lot. But went on the placement year then with that sports science course, and I worked in stat sports. You know the vests with the pods in the back for
yeah,
GPS.
yeah,
Yeah, I done a year in there. It was class, and it was about halfway through that I actually decided to do the PT course. So it was my auntie done it as well, and she was like, it was class, and I thought, you know what, like, I have a real thing for this. Like, I love training. That entire placement year, like, I would go to work 9 to 5, take my gear with me, go to the gym, which was about 10 minutes away from the office, and then I'd be home for maybe 7:30 or 8, and I'd make dinner, watch Dexter, and then just repeat over and over again. And it got to maybe halfway through the placement. I started the PT course in January of 25. So then I'd have that same routine, but then I would have like a 9 to 5 on a Saturday as well, because it was an in-person PT course.
yeah.
So it was, now that I look back on it, it was a heavy enough schedule, like, but the fact that I had to go do that extra day on the Saturday, it was actually doing something that I love doing. So it almost just felt as if I was going to train for 8 hours and learn how to train. And then from there, it was over in 4 months, I think. And then I started this page in June 25. To be honest with you, I didn't really use the page at all until December of that year, where I started that, the Higher Up Wellness Speaking Challenge. It's
Yeah.
like the talk to camera for 100 days. And from there was when things actually picked up, because it took me far too long to realize that it's an online business. I need to be online for people to see my face, put me. So you're here, and they're thinking about signing up with you. I don't post, I stay, or you keep posting, you keep going up. Every time I post, it might bring me above you, just in their mind, subconsciously. And as soon as I started posting more, engaging with more people, actually giving out some value and showing people that I know what I can do, I sort of know what I'm talking about, putting out results, it's just sort of snowballed from there. And the main lesson I learned from it was just like, if you're going to do something, you might as well just actually have an idea of where you're going to take it. Because you said earlier about people posting, like, announcing that they're going to do coaching or whatever. There's a big applause, they're on such a high, and then they don't really know how to maintain the momentum or keep people engaged, or like how to actually go about consistently posting, because it can be scary putting out the post of like, here I am, they like accept the entry post sort of thing. It's easy to do because it's almost an excuse to post, but
Yes.
then
Yes.
after that it's like,
Oh no.
what do I do? And then for a lot of people it could be the whole thing of like small town mentality. People are going to laugh at me, my friends are going to judge me, I'm going to be sent to group chats, all that crack. And that first, I'd say 10 videos, 10, 20 videos, they're probably going to be terrible until the 100th video. But the first 10 to 20 are probably the hardest to actually just press share and get yourself going. I went on a tangent there, but
Sort of
that is
one.
more or less the from A to B of how I got into it, and then the ongoings in between it.
Like you said, it's an online business. If obviously you're doing online coaching, people need to know first you exist, so you need to post. Then they need to like you. So, for example, be yourself. I'm going to share my little Lightning McQueen analogies. You're going to share your Fortnite victory royales. You mentioned value, most important word in this conversation, because that enables them people to trust us. Then people buy from you when they trust you. The thing I don't think a lot of people realize is being helpful is not enough. It needs to be packaged in a way that they can unbox for themselves, try out for themselves, and get a taste of what it's like to see your advice in action, or tip you've given, or little adjustment you've recommended. So, say it's changing an ingredient in a meal, or changing where you put your hand on a certain exercise, and they then realize, whoa, if this is the value I've got for free, what happens when I pay this person? But that process can't unravel if you never untie the rope of, shall we say, your pride, your desire to not feel embarrassment. Not gonna happen.
It's looking back, it's probably one of the most selfish things that I ever done, because I actually sat there and said to myself, like, I am that important in other people's eyes that they're going to care about me talking to my phone about doing bicep curls. Like, it's so backwards. Honestly, it is one
Yeah,
of the maddest things I've ever thought.
yeah. I This won't come as a surprise to anyone. You're gonna laugh. You're gonna laugh. You're gonna laugh when you hear what I've got to say here. But I really enjoy making content. I genuinely, I love it when I post a video and I'm like, what am I talking about? This is crap. And then 7 weeks later, I'm speaking to someone and they tell me, oh, I tried that, by the way, and it was really helpful. I was like, huh. I've helped them for free. That's awesome. Do that as much as you can. I posted a last reel I posted there. You know, I've only posted 3 times.
Yeah, I'm going to have to claw this back here when I come off this. Like, I've only got one up today.
But now, some would argue if you need to post more than once a day, your content's not performing well enough. Could be true. However, for me, the way I operate this. If anyone's listening to this and who wants to be a coach, this isn't the way you have to be. But I don't do anything except this. Like this podcast, for example, is me relaxing. But there's content's gonna come out of this. It's screen time, it's exposure to me, right? It's technically still work. If my accountant's looking at the subscription for Riverside coming out of my account, it's business related, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I just want to circle back to that. I love posting content, and a lot of people are like, oh yeah, I want to post it. I think making content should be really easy because there's so much to talk about, and there, two scenarios exist. It actually stems from one issue. It's likely an education problem. I've just spot my laptop. Oops. It's an education problem. If you don't, if there's so much to talk about, and if you don't know what you don't know, it's time to learn. Or if, say, you're insecure about your knowledge of, because you'll see a lot of coaches, especially when they're first starting out, avoid talking about certain topics because they're not very well educated in them. I avoided talking about nutrition for a long time, but I've got a bit better. Obviously, working with Declan has helped a lot, and then doing my own little bits and bobs of research. you can utilize content because you're teaching other people. Teach other people what you've taught yourself or what you've learned. It's a really, really good, useful tool as a coach, because you have to communicate it in such a compact manner, and it has to be easily digestible. Because if it's too long or complex, people are just gonna
That's probably the hardest thing, is just getting your point across as fast but as clear as possible. Because if you start the video being like, "Hi guys, my name is Ross. I'm going to tell you today how a calorie deficit works." They left after I said, "Hi, my name's Ross." Like, it's, you just need to find a way to speak. And that's another thing. The barrier to entry is learning how to talk on camera, because if you can't talk properly, articulate your thoughts, say it really quickly, you're never going to learn how to make content better, because you won't be able to get your point across. In a world where everyone is just constantly doing this, you just need to find a way to, yes, not like bait people in, but get them sat and then maybe explain it in a slower, clearer, easier way.
Definitely. And that's what, when I did the breakdown of your page for the guys in my mentorship, that's what I talked about a lot. About your content's very snappy. The information's very good. It's very well presented, but it's very snappy. You don't get bored. If anyone's listening to this and your content either isn't converting or it's just very is not performing, like is consistently not performing, your content's just boring. I'm sorry. I sent out an email there with the breakdown of your content, that video I did. I'm pretty sure that the first line on the email says, if 99% of people walked out of a cinema after the first 2 seconds of the movie, it's probably not a good movie. Right? And people are offended by that or emotionally attached because I've spent 3 hours on CapCut playing about with it. But that's why you need to get good at this, and the only way you can get good at it is by doing it, for example, 100 times. It's actually more than that. People talk about 100 as the first landmark, but it takes far, far more than that. I'm curious, over that 100 days, I think I probably would have started following you after that you did that challenge, but I'm interested, what was that process like, going from the first day to the 100th day, and what made you want to do it?
We said earlier about the like coaching launch being an excuse to post. Me doing that challenge was an excuse to start talking to the camera, because ultimately the only reason why I wasn't doing it was out of fear. That is literally it. Because I posted a couple, and by a couple I mean I literally posted 3 videos maybe of me talking, and it was woeful. And people did laugh at me, like, that's obviously going to happen. But in my head, I was just so like insecure about it, because there was people who were good at it, but I just couldn't see through the fact that they had already went through the shit, the hard times of it. But the main thing I noticed going through from 1 to 100 was obviously getting better at speaking, less stuttering, knowing how to take a beat, and not rushing to say my point and get it across. But it was probably just the exposure part of it. Actually pressing share that many times in a row made it so much easier. And it was the fact that I was posting something every single day. There was people seeing it every day that I would maybe encounter in person, and they would mention it. And every time they mentioned it, it got a bit easier for me to take it on and be like, yeah, maybe they say something good. A lot of the time it is very positive, but even when it was positive, I would still get a wee bit jumpy or uncomfortable, because social media is becoming more normal, but it's still a bit of a niche thing to be doing consistently. People post
Yeah.
photos of their holidays and stuff and out on a night out with their mates and stuff like that. But perhaps the personal branding side of things, like me, like it's niche.
Hmm.
But I want to say thanks for that loon video, because see, when I was watching that, it was actually, there was a couple of days or a couple of weeks before that maybe, I was like, this is going nowhere for me. Like, I'm actually terrible at this. You just go through like a creative block maybe of just like, why do I even bother? Like, no one's watching this. This is waste my time. I'm embarrassing myself, blah blah. And then I watched that video of you saying all them things. And I was like, whoa, I didn't actually notice any of this. So maybe this is what other people are thinking. Or if you're seeing it, then maybe it's not that bad. So sometimes it's just like biding your time. If you think you're going nowhere, someone will eventually say something in a light manner or positive feedback, or your video will do well, or whatever it is. And it'll all just click, and then you sort of just, it's a wee bit of a boost to just sort of keep going until eventually you inevitably do come back down again. Like,
Yeah. I think it's funny you mentioned that you're just doing or executing content in a certain way without even realizing really why the things you're doing are so good. Same with getting a coach. You might actually be good at lifting, but you might not realize why you're good at lifting and how it translates to other areas of your training, right? Because most principles in the human body are transferable. Bringing it back to content, it's not like you studied it in a textbook or anything. Where you've got to, it's just a result of gauging the response every day. When a video went out and it didn't do well, or it plummeted, you could just infer that, okay, the hook was terrible here. There was no captions on this video, so if somebody's on a train, they're not gonna, if they're AirPods, they're just gonna scroll past it. All these little things come from the failures. Content's very much a case of failure plus failure equals improvement. If you recognize that, if you're almost if you don't behave like a dog that eats its own vomit, you know, that might be a bit. That might be a bit.
no, sorry, I just didn't catch that one. I'm not picking up what you're putting down. No, but everything before that, that was, yeah, you're dead right. Like, you say about you can't learn it in a textbook, or you didn't learn it in a textbook. It's the only way you're going to realize is through doing it and then realizing, right, that wasn't great. Like, for me personally, there will be small things that there's a certain room for some reason. If I make a video and it does not break 1,000 views, and I don't know whether it's the background or whether my position my phone sits in, but you can't really like teach stuff like that. You just sort of like pick up
Nope.
on it, small, tiny details, but they become automatic, but they actually do make a big difference. So you don't even think about doing it half the time. So it's just that thing again of just failure plus failure equals improvement,
Or something like that.
or something along them lines.
It's like
Peak 2026.
it's like, do you know when you're about to get punched or if somebody's just a slobber? It's it's the alert experience from being in a certain environment or situation. It's your content, right? there's what's that Hormozy quote? There's a certain amount of work you can put in where it makes failure. I've butchered it. It's
Do so much
most
volume that it wouldn't make sense for you to fail
it'd be
or
unreasonable
something
for you
along
not to
them
feel.
like.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
volume negates luck.
yeah.
And I just had a thought there. Some advice for coaches. For the love of God, you posting a screenshot of an Alex Hormozy quote does not count as your content for the day. I remember I used to post all these motivational. There's one I actually reacted to. It's me in the middle of Ballyboley Forest, which, if you don't know, is like the most haunted forest in the
Oh,
country, apparently. But it's in this field, I suppose, next to the forest where all the trees have been cut down, so it's just straw everywhere. It's me walking there on a misty day, and I'm like, pessimism is poison, and positivity is power. If you think, and then I still remember it. If you think or say it can't be done, then it won't be done. I'm like, ah,
that's
but that's
that's a good
cringe.
point.
That's
You said
cringe, right?
cringe.
Yeah, it's cringe, but it's a necessary rep
Oh yeah,
because
I went through that sort of phase too.
now when I post, it's pulling people into my ecosystem, and I know how to get them from someone that's seeing my sign on a billboard and processing them into being someone that I work with one to one. But it's only because of those cringe videos when I was fat and bald. Slightly less fat, slightly less bald, but we're losing the battle here. But anyway,
Nah,
it's
you've got so much more aura now. Like I can sense it. Don't worry.
thanks mate in a binary form. Somehow my ones and zeros are projecting over to burn. Did you say
Yeah,
no?
yeah. That's actually a good way to say it.
Burn,
Burn. Yeah.
burn, burn.
No, there's the whole like you were talking about there, the mindset and the sort of motivational speaking. Not niche, but the videos.
Yeah,
There's a lot of them, and I do make them the odd time. But I feel as if you end up making one because you just get this realization of it's like you realize how easy it is for something to happen or to make something happen, and it's like we talked about with the content or starting the thing. Like you literally, like we've said it so many times, just put one foot forward. And
yes.
when you have a conversation with somebody and they're saying, "I can't do this, I can't do that," and you actually want to shout at them and be like, "All you have to do is put your foot forward or put your hand up,"
Mhm.
and then you go on to make that video. And to some people, they might look at it and think, "Who's this fella shouting at me down the phone? Some 22-year-old from with a sports science degree. Why would I listen to him?" But unless they're in that moment of that video and resonating with them, and they have something in the back of their mind, that's all it looks like. It just looks like some tube shouting down the phone. There's always just like an intent behind it. Like you with your video in the forest, you called it cringe, and maybe it was, maybe it is. But in that moment, you didn't go out to that forest being like, right, I have no reason for this video, but I'm just going to start shouting, quote unquote. I can't remember what it was, but
We're not even repeating it, man.
something made you say that. Something
Yeah,
happened that made you come out with that. And
yeah. You don't become bald at 20 for no reason.
I shouldn't laugh.
It's all
To
right.
be fair, like, do you have any photos or anything where you would like big hair,
With
like
a friend like what you have.
yeah, if you could call that. There's sticking out from the food up here and all that.
Bit of cornflakes. Okay. If you're listening on Spotify, then apologies.
I sound like a
I'm sure.
5-year-old saying that. I said, "Do you have any photos of you with big hair?"
Yeah, guys. We do apologize if you are not. Okay, there's one.
How many years ago, roughly, would that have been?
I've been 2018.
That is like a different person. I
Eight
suppose it is
years
eight,
ago.
8 years ago. Like, yeah, we've heard.
Many kilograms ago. Although, although, see when I got down to my leanest there in end of March, start of April, I got down to 68.6 kilo. That was my first time under 70 kilos since I was maybe that age. I was probably about the same weight in that photo.
What height are you? No,
5'5".
not like that. And you were the same weight in that photo there.
Yeah.
Just goes to show you. Some people don't understand.
It's a
Like,
number on a
yeah,
scale. That's it.
like when I first started out, one of my good mates actually said to me, I was telling him about a fella who was cutting, and he was started, I think, at 75. And he was like, he's hardly trying to lose weight. That's not heavy. I was like, what do you mean? He said, he doesn't need to cut. Like, he's going to be in 60 kg. That's dangerous. You're like, it sort of just puts it in the perspective of, I don't expect him to understand that that's the process that's meant to happen. He doesn't realize that there's a lot more context than just a number on a metal plate on the floor.
Yeah.
Stuff that we think is very, very obvious or you should know. It's not to other people. And that's something that I actually took into my coaching a good while ago, a good few months ago now, but it was at the start, for some reason, I would just think that people knew the very obvious things until it dawned on me one day that a fella said to me, I didn't know that protein built muscle. And it was from that point I was like, right, I'm going to need to strip this back from the start with most people until they almost give me the signs that they know, because assuming people know things it was just that one moment where it really dawned on me. I never went much deeper than that, but that just made me realize that to the average person, the obvious for us is probably layers behind.
Yeah. There's been many such cases, especially with personal training. Even outside of actual training and nutrition. I remember I was chatting to one of the girls I used to PT, and I mentioned one of my online clients, and she was like, I never understood how does online work? Is it through FaceTime? And I burst out laughing, but I didn't mean to. I caught myself on. I was like, no, sorry, I just haven't heard that before. But then I started to get that question a lot. Now it's a big thing with me because I'm leaving the gym floor. I have 23 sessions left to do, and then that's me going fully online. Now me trying to explain to my 56-year-old client why he should go online and what that's going to look like for him. Now it's very apparent that was a skill I probably should have had sharpened and had a system for.
Just never realized.
100%. And I have my very advanced Google Sheets, and then I have my OneFit and my coaching app. It's about tailoring it to the person. However, aside from the guys that I've been coaching on the floor that maybe already were hybrid and are now transitioning fully online or are gonna go from PTing to online. Aside from that, and unless I do plan in the future to open up a facility, But aside from that, I don't see myself working with general population too much. And the reason that I wanted to actually ask you about, or bring up the point that you attract Gen Pop because you were / are Gen Pop. Your clients become a reflection of you. So if you look at the bulk of the people I'll be working with from like a coaching standpoint online, are people who were lifting is a very big part of their life, who care a lot, are really detailed about the hypertrophy process, or maybe they're powerlifters, or maybe like they're really aesthetics based. And that's why I've gone into coaching coaches, because even when I was at that stage where I was making your pessimism is poison videos, and even when I was right at the start of my road, I actually knew quite a lot for someone who had been in the field for such a short time. In that context, literally in the field, but all I did was learn, invest in education. I actually started coaching powerlifting. I'm pretty sure it was 2 weeks after my first ever competition. And I got a lot of shit from all the other powerlifters. Like, oh, what are you doing? Powerlifting's a very weird world, by the way. Very, very weird world.
I wouldn't know too much about it.
It's like people. I'm not even gonna go down this rabbit hole because I was about to, but I wouldn't even know where to start.
Get a powerlifter on the podcast.
Oh, I've had plenty of them on this podcast already. Actually, just spread out over the course of 2 years. That's why I wanted to.
Speaking of this, what is the podcast called?
This is like the third name. No, so I don't know if you knew me when I was doing the whole Utopia thing.
No.
No, so that's what I would have done from July 2024 to October last year. Myself and Michael Collin were in business together, and it was called Utopia. It's a fantastic idea, but it just didn't work as a business because we tried to do everything and ended up achieving nothing from it. But if you actually go onto that page, you see a lot of echoes of what I was trying to do then in my content now. But anyway, that was just it was called like the Utopia Show or something initially.
Has it got anything to do with Travis Scott?
No.
No.
But I did use No Bystanders when I launched the video.
Fair enough.
Oh, sorry,
Good
I did the launch video. Great song. And I think now, when I rebranded it, I think it's called the Relentless podcast. But now I think that's a word that sits quite well with me. I just don't let up. Like we chatted previously about needing to deliver content. Ultimately, like, we're sitting here having a conversation as two coaches, and we will become friends when we finally link up in real life.
Maybe.
But this guy.
Catfish.
fake. But ultimately, professionally, you're one of my competitors, and there will be people on listening to this maybe who don't know either of us in person or personally, and may be consuming both your content and my content, and something we say on this podcast may tip them over to either side, right? So that's what I want. I think people should realize, if you don't go get it, somebody else will.
Yeah. Snapped up.
Exactly. And the most powerful weapon you have is, well, the person you see in the mirror, right? The industry's not saturated. There's only one you. right? People buy you. And that's what I find so frustrating when I see all these as I call them, cereal box PTs. We just walk in the shop and there's just millions of them stacked behind each other, top of each other. Just try be you. That's something I hate. I'll do a reel on this. I've noticed this. See when somebody has nothing interesting to talk about, or no, or like interesting thoughts, no interesting takes on training, no interesting ways of or different ways of communicating. They always try mention, oh, my ADHD or something, or my OCD when they haven't even been clinically diagnosed. They're trying to fabricate them having some form of uniqueness when they don't. It's everyone's into something. Surely we can connect on the fact that we are into. You can connect with someone on the fact you're into something, right?
Everyone does something. You can't do
Yeah.
nothing. It's that Joey Diaz quote. You need to do something. You can't just sit around and literally, like, there is something to talk about. And I think it's just cope. That's what it is most of the time, of saying, like, if they say it's too saturated, people have said to me all the time, oh, here's an PT, blah, blah. Like, yeah, but it's purely on me if whether or not it works or not. Like, the selling point is me. Same goes for you. The deciding point between someone working with you or me, regardless of whether you're more so on people who love the gym, it's a big part of their life. They want to learn, they want to get into the nitty gritty. Whereas me, it's just tell me what to do, I'll go do it. What you present yourself with, or what I present myself with, or how I say certain things, or how you say certain things, that's probably the only thing that settles it, really.
Yeah. I guess the difference between us, maybe, don't know how, if we can put it this way, you intensify simplicity, I simplify intensity.
That's a very good way to put it, yeah.
And it's on the person listening or consuming our content to choose what they want. Because say we both, in chronological order, it's your reel and then my reel. We might be talking about the same principle, fundamentally, but just go a whole different way, right? Whatever, but we're just gonna package it in a different way and then put a little sprinkle of us on it.
Yeah. Comes back to the whole Buzz Lightyear thing, like,
yeah,
you can't just make the same video of the one that always just comes to my head is the stop training your biceps like this. Here's how to hit 3 heads of the bicep. And you're like, mate,
just bend your elbow. Bend your elbow and don't move your shoulder. It's actually like, bend. Anyone who's listening to this who might be on Ross's side of the table, I might be asking the question about bicep training. Bend your elbow without moving your shoulder. 2 to 3 sets twice a week. You're gonna have bigger biceps.
Flex. And then see for tricep as well. Just see the opposite. See the opposite. Just go that way. Like, flex, extend. Doesn't matter what you do. Like, that's another thing. It's the case of, like, absolutes, and you have to do it this way. Like, you see, like, some of the biggest people, like, just if you go into any gym, like, not even in, like, the Instagram space or whatever, but if you go into any gym, the biggest dudes are doing bench press, shoulder press, like they're doing the traditional movements because they're strong at them and they've done it for years.
Yeah.
And then you've got the wee dweebs in comment sections being like, no, this isn't stable enough. You need a cuff, blah, 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 and all this shite. And it literally, like, they think they're right. And the only thing is, scientifically and biomechanically, they could be right. And they probably are. But it's just that nuance of, like, there's nuance in everything.
Skin in the game.
Yeah.
I was actually thinking about this last night. Science-based lifters are right about hypertrophy, but they are wrong when it comes to the bigger picture. Because hypertrophy long-term is possible through ticking boxes. He said tickling balls. Ticking boxes elsewhere, right? So, okay, maybe doing your little, I don't know, unilateral cuffed.
Daisy chain.
I don't even know what these guys are doing. Yes, from it, like, if we're isolating the joint action and hitting the nail on the head with the line of pull in the profile, awesome. But have you considered that you're small and guys, anyone who's watching on YouTube, like, it's just this t-shirt. I'm actually bigger than this, all right?
Don't look at me.
You've got the shoulders out. Just two insecure guys talking on a podcast to make ourselves seem professional.
Smart.
Just yapping.
Yeah.
But I did a video on this a couple of days ago, 3 days ago. Like you mentioned, they're trying to maximize the stability of every exercise, but the benefit of stability is that we can resist more force, right? So we can exert more force. When we look at, like, fundamentally what stability is, it's just mobility and coordination put together. And we move through a checklist of mobility, stability, and then force, output, strength, whatever way you want to put it. Like, working backwards, we can't grow the muscle if we can't move the joints around it. So your man there who is doing, like, really heavy momentum aided single arm dumbbell rows, sure, that's not optimal, but guess what? His shoulder blade's moving a lot there. His ribs are moving. And he's lifting heavy weight, and he's going to experience mechanical tension when we get to the end of that set. Whereas you're trying to isolate everything, and guess what? Human body does not work in isolation. Right? So the point I made was, when we look at dissociating joints and segments to be accurate with hypertrophy, that can't happen if we don't get into positions that come as a result of association. Right? Because we're designed to move, humans. We're not designed to if the human body worked in the way that science-based lifters trained, in isolation, we would walk like crabs. The best example is our glute med, right? So For anyone that doesn't know, that's the glute on the side of your hip. In isolation, that just draws your leg out to the side. So if that's how we work, we would just be walking sideways like crabs. But the function, so function refers to how our muscles behave when we move and breathe. Function of a glute med is to provide lateral stability of the hip. In simple words, when you're walking, it stops you going all wobbly, keeps you nice and stable. Right? So when we focus too much about hypertrophy, or when we focus too much on hypertrophy, we lose sight of the bigger picture. That is, you're a human being. So when you see people in the gym and they're doing really heavy bench press and lunges and split squats, and then they go on the Gaelic pitch, and they've done that for a long time, and they keep repeating that process, they're going to be strong, they're going to be fast, because they're just doing the basics really well. When I see you train, you're like videos of you train, it makes me really happy, because it's just simple stuff done really, really well. And it works so well. And anyone that goes on the Ross's page here after and you look at the results, but don't lie. And it's, I said that in that Loom video when I broke down your page. There's nothing magic here. It's just, again, the intensification of simplicity.
Yep.
Right. I've got off on a massive tangent there.
No, you're bang on.
You mentioned science-based lifters, so I had to.
I didn't want to cut in. That's your ball game. But on the flip side of
talk too much about balls here, like.
Quit. You said about all the scientific side of things, but then you also have to think like the enjoyment aspect of it. Like, surely you're going to enjoy doing a dumbbell row instead of a unilateral elbow bench supported, puffed, gripped lat row. Like, I don't try to add in as many words as I could there. Like, it's all about the enjoyment side of things, and probably just because it is in my case, like, a lot of the people I work with maybe don't enjoy the gym massively in the beginning, and almost like the first thing I say to them, whether it's on a call or in a Loom, is just like, when I go through the coaching process, I just try my best to cut out the noise of stuff that actually it can help, but it's small percentages. And whenever I do boil it down to whatever it is, half of the time it's literally just calories, your macros, your training, steps, and then the added thing is the communication, the accountability that they get from myself. And it just seems to be the formula. And it gets the results, like you said. And yeah, it isn't easy, but it is simple. Don't complicate it. Just go on.
Yeah. Would you say you felt inspired by Michael Smoke?
Yeah, big time. Like, purely from he always just talked about, like, John Cena said, you're significantly insignificant. That's a different person, but that was the sort of like feeling I got off the videos. Was just like, you are going to die. You clearly want to do something, and you keep coming back to it, and you keep thinking about doing it, and you're not doing it because of A or B. Like, and I think it was just slowly over time that sort of just like ate away at me. And then one day I was like, you know what? Let's do it. See what happens. And here we are. I'm talking to Pete, who I've never met in real person.
bizarre concept, but it's
we're in a simulation. Cool. We have to be.
We gave social media a bit of grief earlier at the start of the conversation, but I think it certainly has its positives. And definitely. We can use it for good. We can use it to help people. And that's the cool thing about it. That's the cool thing about the online business. But everything has its downside, I suppose. in true fashion. They're in true Pete fashion. Oh God, here we go.
Go ahead.
I've described in-person personal training as I actually can't say this on the podcast.
That's a great opener.
I actually can't say this on the podcast, but the point I'm going to make, when people get into PTing only for the money, it becomes very evident very quick. Because you'll see them coaching, and I'm not even going to use the word coaching. Because PTing is a really easy way to make money if you're willing to do the work. But you have a duty of care there. Right? You have what you say to people and what you get them to do. It really matters. Right? And it was actually one of the main reasons I went into mentorship, because it actually made me angry. Like it annoyed me so much when I saw people paying for a service that was terrible. I'm just looking at the coach. I'm like, I've seen you spend £300 on some influencer's gut cleansing kit, but you won't invest in the proper education. Right? People are trusting you with their time and their money and their energy, and you're just, oh, here's a 4x20 with a 30-second stretch. Right? And I knew that this mentorship / going fully online was what I wanted to do, and I knew that with the mentorship I could have a greater net impact because I could help people that help people. I was always passionate about the detail, and who likes the detail? Guess what? Coaches who want to get better, people who are really into lifting.
I never thought of it that way. When you said net impact,
Yeah.
You're not just helping the coaches, you're helping the coaches who help their clients.
Do you ever see it in a movie where, like, they blow up like a car or a vehicle or some vehicle of some sort, and then all the vehicles beside it start blowing up? That's the way I see it.
Yeah.
If I can help my clients, yes, my radius grows with my client base, and maybe you get referrals and they pass something on, but it's very slow. So Ross, you start with me tomorrow, for example, just as just for the sake of conversation. I'm already one of the first things that happens when you start with me is I outline my standards, what I expect, what you can expect from me, but what I expect of you, and then all it takes is for you to realize I'm not doing this with my clients. I'm not setting my standards. So when we have all these missed check-ins and people not sending training footage and not giving me the data I need, sending me 45-minute voice notes when I outline that I don't do voice notes, it's on you to set that standard, right? Some people don't think of that. So already before you've even entered the door, when you're looking at the door that has the rules pinned on it, you realize I'm not doing that, and then you introduce that onto your service, and that's already making an impact, because if you hold the people on your roster to a higher standard, they're going to get better results. So, and then we can talk about, the biomechanics, the session delivery, service reviews, all of that. Before you've even entered the door, you know what's expected of you. And then your client, as I mentioned earlier, your clients will become a reflection of you. And that's why it's so important to set standards. I'm gonna go off slightly on another tangent, but for the for the sake of the conversation, I think this is why this applies both to coaches and people who are maybe just general gym goers or want to start the gym. If a coach sets standards for you, this is why it's important, and this is why you should, if you're a coach, this is why you should set standards for your clients. In my school, I went to a very traditional conservative grammar school, and which I liked. I have, obviously there's some things in school like you've heard me talk about quite openly on social media. I'm not a fan of, but I liked the way our school was run. I respected it. There was a bell. Outside of the assembly hall that I think was in memoriam of someone that had been killed. So that had went to the school, and it was a serviceman of I think it was a policeman, something like that. And I remember one of the very first assemblies in first year, like we just heard this bell ring from outside, and everyone just went dead silent, and I was like, "What's this?" You know. But then they taught us that when that bell's rung, you shut up, because that means the assembly's starting. And I remember the teacher would, again, the reason they wanted the preface school being like very traditional and so on, like all the teachers wore gowns, like cloaks, all of them, not just the senior, like all of them. So you'd see the teacher walking down the middle because everyone was almost set out like clones, like regimented.
Harry Potter.
Yeah. And the teacher would walk up the middle of the assembly hall, if it was the heels hammering away or the heavy footsteps, and this like cloak dripping behind him, like Darth Sidious, walking up the Star Destroyer, and they'd have this angry look in their face, and they'd be scanning the assembly hall, looking for silence, or looking for anyone that wasn't observing the silence. And then, like, that same teacher that took that first assembly, I remember thinking it was so scary. See, as I went on in school, I realised he was like a big teddy bear. He's the loveliest, like, quirky person ever. But he presented that way and he conducted himself in that way, so they knew what the rules were, what was expected of us as students. So we were more likely to comply with the school's rules and behave. And again, I'm not saying if you're a client you need to behave. That's just wild, but I think some coaches do get this weird like power trip because they can have control of their business. You do need to display a certain amount of authority if you're a coach, otherwise you're not getting the results. But I just wanted to tell that story because if you don't set the bar from the start, you're going to have problems. And then it doesn't matter if they really like you and you get on really well with your client. If you're not getting the result, mate, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, when they come on board, like there is something not clicking for them, and 90% of the time is I'm not doing what I need to be doing, or I need help to do the right thing. And if, for example, that teacher was a teddy bear off the rip,
yeah,
there would be issues inevitably down the line, and it would be a pain in the ass. But from the start, you make it clear what's going to happen, what we're going to do, and then you obviously just get to know the person. That's probably one of the biggest things, like building a bit of a client to coach relationship, not coach to child relationship, where it becomes a case of like running after them and chasing them for check-ins or chasing them for photos week on week. Of course, there's going to be times where maybe it slips.
Yeah.
But if the standards aren't there from the start, then it might just become a game of cat and mouse.
Yeah, and I think my first sort of experience with this was when I remember when I first started with Declan, I was kind of taken aback by was very different to all, like, Declan's the fourth coach I've worked with. Very different to all the other coaches I've worked with. It was just a lot more regimented. And even the tone and the feedback, I was like, I'm really being told what to do. Then I started to, obviously the client relationship started to develop. I was doing exactly what was required of me. He's like my mate now. My big 6'3", 100 kilo Australian mate.
Yeah.
My famous friend. But you need to then understand that someone with, like, he's got close to 100 clients, or the client group chat was that size, so I assume that's all the people he's coaching. But actually, he does mentorship as well, so there's probably more. But if he's got that sort of demand, and he's allowing people standards to slip, and people mess around straight off the bat, that business is not able to deliver quality to that many people.
Yeah.
So I know people take the piss out of coaches being like, oh, you've no availability or at capacity or whatever. But with some coaches with certain standards and a certain extremely high quality of service, it's genuinely the case. I do actually want to ask you one question before I forget. So just before we went on this call, I had a phone call from Reese McAllister, who a lot of you might be familiar with, and he wanted to ask you a question. I wanted to put a question to you, and it was, I wrote this down because I'll probably forget it. If you had to stop coaching / doing content tomorrow, but could put out one last piece of advice for someone that would, or give them one action step, one line that would have a knock-on effect. I would have the knock-on effect of keeping them in the shape of their life for the rest of their life, or maybe just to get them into the shape of their life and stay in good nick. What would it be? One simple action step.
Find a way to keep a standard of 70% or 7 out of 10 that you can repeat, like you said, for the rest of your life. It's not, that is an action step, but there's a lot that goes into that action step. But if you were to find a way to break that down, it's there for everybody. Everyone has it in them. 7 out of 10 isn't anything spectacular, but it gets you from A to B. And I've seen it with myself. I've seen it with my clients. And it's that same old saying we said earlier. It isn't easy, but the entire concept is very, very simple. It's just applying it is what most people struggle with.
If you're willing to try hard for a very long time, there's no way you can fail. One of my favorite quotes is, effort is free. You can choose to try 1% harder every day. In the realm I'm in now with helping personal trainers, I always say to them that nobody's actually trying. Nobody is trying. If you go onto that gym floor, you go out of your way to speak to people, no matter how awkward or how hard it may be to start that or maintain that conversation. If you keep doing it, no matter how much you want to pull your hair out, because nothing's happening, despite the fact you're working so hard, what are your options? Just give up, or keep digging in, keep going. Because realistically, all it takes is one conversation, one potential client that gets you a whoa result to change the trajectory and open doors you never even would have thought possible. And always remember, like in in the realm of being a human, I suppose there's so many more worrying things you could do as a job. Right? You're some form of high ranking military personnel. One, like you telling a driver to take a wrong turn can get a whole squad of people killed. You're a neurosurgeon. You cough, you can sever something. I don't know anything. Don't know too much about neurology, but I assume there's things that shouldn't be snipped off of a scissor, like, you know.
Yeah.
The
Like, what we have to do isn't treacherous. It can be mentally taxing, but you could be doing a lot more things that are a lot harder, that have longer nights, that have more of an impact on who you see or what you get to do. Like, at the end of the day, it can be a flexible job if you want to take that approach with it.
Yeah.
And you just have to be grateful for that. Like, you get to go to the gym and wear shorts every day. Like, it's great.
Yeah, it's lifting weights at the end of the day. It is so much more than lifting weights, but at the same time, it is still lifting weights.
And if you're explaining that to the average person, they're not going to listen to anything outside of it's lifting weights.
Yeah. If you're a PT client of mine, you know that for this hour or whatever it may be, I want you to try hard. Your best on the day is good enough. But if you have 30%, I ask that you give that 30%. It will annoy me when I know someone has a 30 on that day, but they're only given 10. But it is also your job as a coach to figure out if it's a 30 or if it's a 10. Do they really? Is the best thing you could do for them on that day pushing their chest press to failure, or is it asking them if they're okay? Because there are heavy conversations as a coach you need to have. I do think there is something to be said. It's more so for the online space where there are genuinely certain behaviors and emotional patterns, things people bring up where if it happens on multiple occasions, you should be asking the question, is this something that should be handled by a therapist? Making that distinction, I think, is huge. A lot of people, I think some coaches try fix everything. And as a coach, you can be a Swiss Army knife. You should be a Swiss Army knife. You have to be a Swiss Army knife if you want to survive in this industry. But also know your place. Drop your
Staying
ego.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah, massive. Especially with, like you said, therapy, but then also injury, pain. You can try or suggest, but after a while, if you know it's outside of your skill set, then it's your duty to refer to someone else.
Yeah. It's important. Again, this is why education is so important. It's important to be able to help someone in pain as a coach. But it's also important to recognize what the red flags are that are far, far outside of your scope. Right? If you've got pain that's really bad in the middle of the night, you're waking up in cold sweats and you're losing control of your bowel movements, whatever it may be. Not a job for a PT. Not probably not even a job for a GP. You skip a few steps there. You know?
A and E.
Yeah. Straight to it. again, me and Ross are having a lighthearted conversation about this, but there'll be coaches listening to this who, oh, I was in real pain. I was in real pain last night. Woke up in cold sweats. That wouldn't set off any alarm bells for them. Anyone's listening, you hear you. Of course, I'm not a doctor. You hear something like that, you finish your session there, and I don't care if you haven't been paid or whatever. Like, wise up, you send them straight to the hospital. It's it's knowing these things that I don't, from what I remember, and it baffles me. I don't think red flag symptoms was something that's actually covered on the PT course.
It's not.
No,
No.
how stupid is that? Like,
Now that you say that, I couldn't name too many off the top of my head. Like,
yeah, and the PT course, when you're doing it, it's like, oh, this is actually kind of cool. But then, the way it's taught is it leaves your mind 2 weeks later.
yeah. And it's very common for someone who does qualify to not immediately put it to use or put it into practice that it actually maybe sticks. It's common for people to maybe sit on it or take a beat for a few months, and then that's where you really do forget things. Like,
The people who write these courses are former fat fitness instructors who went all corporate.
pencil pushers, like,
I like that. I like that.
that's the beauty of the in-person courses you can do. It's sort of like you can go to a TAC or you can go to like an online one and pay 400 quid and get it done. Whereas you could pay maybe a couple of thousand and go to an in-person facility and you actually coach other people learning to coach. So you're actually practically doing it. Yeah. And by the time you do get thrown onto a gym floor or you do get thrown into your first client session, you've coached at least 30 hours, maybe
Huge.
more. Like, that's a massive difference. Even the smallest thing of like telling someone how to like do something, if you were to go in cold turkey, like, you would be screwed.
I remember having to lie down on the sofa after my first PT session. I was just like shriveling up into a ball. It was like a wee raisin. Going into your first PT session with 30 hours of in person coaching experience is genuinely like your first day at a combat sport with 30 hours experience. It's night and day.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know anything about combat sports, but the only thing I understand about combat sports is that reps really matter.
And you can probably spot it a mile off. I never worked in a commercial gym. I've been lucky enough to have a setup in my garage, but if you were to put a 30-hour experience and a fresh off a laptop course like into the same gym floor and watch them, you could be chalk and cheese. Like,
Yeah. And stagnation is death, to be honest. You're either getting better or you're getting worse as a coach. Education is everything. But yeah, if you're a coach and you want to make better content, or even maybe find out why your content sucks, the link to that little breakdown I did of Ross's page, again, very simple, very well packaged, very well delivered content. It's going to be in the link in the description on YouTube and Spotify, however I post this. Thank you for letting me use that, by the way.
no problem.
Very
There you go a wee bit.
I enjoyed it very much. Ross, if the people want to find you on Instagram, where are we sending them?
Ross McGivern.coach. Just my name with .coach at the end. And the exact same on TikTok, but I forget to post on it all the time because no one is on TikTok to learn or buy. They're just there to rot. Put it simply, like.
Truer word was never said.
that's another conversation.
That's another conversation. Ross, thank you very much for your time, mate.
It's been an absolute pleasure. First time doing anything like this, and to be honest with you, I was scared like because I don't even know you. Sent the old sent the old voice note like, but
Yeah.
stranger
Sorry,
danger and all that.
if you don't pay me, you actually get to send me voice notes.
He might reply.
Maybe. Unreal. Thank you very much for your time, mate.
Pleasure.